There is a secret hidden in the soft glow of Christmas lights. Behind the wrapping paper and the carols, beneath the image of a jolly man in red velvet, lies a history so wild, so unruly, that entire governments once tried to stamp it out. Puritans of 17th century England and colonial America did not merely discourage Christmas, they banned it, they outlawed it. They saw in its festivities not the birth of their savior, but the shadow of something older, something pagan, something dangerous. What were they so afraid of? The answer is not simple, because Christmas itself is not simple. It is not one story, but many stories woven together across centuries. It is a festival born from the collision of empires and faiths, a midwinter fire kindled by Romans who worshipped the sun, by Germanic tribes who feared the dark, and by a church that learned to baptize the unconquerable. The Christmas we know today is a carefully edited version of a far stranger tale. It is a holiday built on the bones of Saturnalia, wrapped in the evergreens of Yule, crowned with the name of a saint who was, by all accounts, nothing like the figure who brings children toys. Welcome back to Whispered Chronicles, Echoes of Forgotten Lore. Tonight, we journey back to the origins. We'll walk through Roman streets where slaves became kings for a day. We will stand in the frozen forests of the north, where the wild hunt rode through the longest nights. We will meet a bishop who defended his faith with his fists, and we will ask the question that haunts every tradition: how much of what we celebrate do we truly understand? This is the pagan heart of Christmas. This is the forgotten lore. Saturnalia, the feast of chaos. Long before there was Christmas, there was Saturnalia. In the Roman calendar, from the 17th to the 23rd of December, the empire turned itself upside down. Saturnalia was dedicated to Saturn, the god of agriculture and time, the deity who once ruled over a golden age of plenty before Jupiter cast him down. For 1 week each year, his reign was remembered, and the order of Rome was deliberately, joyfully inverted. Served their slaves at table. The wealthy wore the pileus, the conical felt cap of the freedman, and commoners spoke without fear of punishment. Gambling, normally illegal, was permitted. Feasting filled every household. The streets rang with song and laughter, and the air grew thick with wine and excess. The poet Catullus called it the best of days. The philosopher Seneca fled the city to escape the noise. Most striking of all was the ritual of gift-giving. Romans exchanged sigillaria, small figurines made of wax or clay, and cerae, candles that symbolized the lengthening light. These gifts were not grand, they were tokens of goodwill, reminders that even in winter, generosity could flourish. The tradition was so beloved that it survived the fall of paganism itself. When the church rose to power, it did not destroy Saturnalia. It transformed it, but transformation came at a cost. The chaos had to be tamed. The inversion of social order, so central to Saturnalia's spirit, was quietly erased. The feasting remained, but the rebellion did not. What had been a festival of liberation became a celebration of control. The church understood that people needed their midwinter revels, but it could not allow them to remain wild, and so Saturnalia was baptized. Its gifts were reframed as offerings in honor of the Magi who brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Its feasts became celebrations of the Nativity. Its candles, once symbols of Saturn's lost age, now honored the light of Christ. Yet the shadow of the old festival lingered. Centuries later, when the Puritans looked upon Christmas and saw drunkenness, disorder, and the faint outline of a pagan god, they were not entirely wrong. They were seeing Saturnalia's ghost. The date, Sol Invictus, and the light. There is no record in the Gospels of the date of Christ's birth. The New Testament offers no calendar, no season, no mention of December. For the first 3 centuries of Christianity, the Nativity was not widely celebrated at all. Easter, the resurrection, was the faith's true center. The birth was secondary, unknown, unmoored in time. So why December 25th? The answer lies not in Bethlehem, but in Rome. By the 3rd century, the empire was fracturing. Christianity was rising, but it was not yet dominant. It competed with a dozen mystery cults, with the worship of Mithras, with the imperial veneration of the sun. And on December 25th, the Romans celebrated Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. This was the festival of Sol Invictus. a deity championed by emperors who sought to unify their crumbling state under a single radiant god. The timing was deliberate. December 25th fell just after the winter solstice, the moment when the days began, imperceptibly, to lengthen. The sun, which had seemed to die, was reborn. Light returned, hope rekindled. It was a powerful symbol, and the church recognized its power. When Constantine converted to Christianity in the early 4th century, the faith gained not only political protection, but strategic ambition. To win the empire, the church had to speak the empire's language, had to make Christ the true sun, the light that outshone all others. And so, gradually, the Nativity was assigned to December 25th. Not because Jesus was born then, but because Sol Invictus had been celebrated then. The date was not historical, it was tactical. It was spiritual warfare. This was not unique to Christmas. Throughout its early centuries, Christianity layered itself over the pagan calendar, claiming sacred days and holy sites, building churches on the ruins of temples. It was a method of conversion that understood human nature. People needed their festivals. They needed their lights in the darkness. The church did not take these away. It baptized them. It made them Christian. And in doing so, it ensured that the old gods would never be fully forgotten. Yule and the Wild Hunt. In the forests of the north, far from the marble columns of Rome, another midwinter festival was already ancient when Christianity arrived. The Germanic and Norse peoples called it Yule. It began on the winter solstice and lasted for 12 days, a liminal time when the boundary between worlds grew thin and the darkness pressed close. Yule was a time of survival and superstition, of fire against the cold, of rituals meant to protect the living from the restless dead. At the heart of Yule was the Yule log, a massive piece of oak or ash dragged into the hall and set ablaze. It was not merely firewood. It was a symbol of the sun's return, of warmth and life in the depths of winter. The log had to burn continuously throughout the 12 nights. If it went out, misfortune would follow. Its ashes were scattered in the fields to ensure the next harvest. Its charred remnants were kept to kindle the following year's fire. The Yule log was continuity. It was survival. Evergreens, too, held sacred meaning. Holly, ivy, and pine were brought indoors, not for decoration, but as proof that life persisted even in the dead season. They were green when all else was barren. They were hope made visible. In a world without electric lights, without supermarkets or central heating, this was not sentimentality. It was necessity. But Yule was not only about the hearth, it was also about the sky. During the 12 nights, the Wild Hunt rode. This was a spectral procession led by Odin, the Allfather of the Norse pantheon, a god of war, wisdom, and death. Odin was no jolly gift-giver. He was one-eyed, cloaked, and terrifying. He rode an 8-legged horse named Sleipnir through the winter storms, leading an army of the dead, the fallen, the forsaken. To see the Wild Hunt was to risk madness or death. To hear its approach was to bar your doors and pray. Yet Odin was also a wanderer who rewarded hospitality. Offerings of food and drink were left out for him during Yule, and in return he might bless a household with good fortune. Children left their boots filled with hay near the hearth for Sleipnir, and Odin, in gratitude, would replace the hay with gifts. This is not a coincidence. This is the ancestor of Santa Claus. Christianity moved north, but it couldn't shake off Yule. The people would not allow it. And so, the church adapted. The 12 days of Yule became the 12 days of Christmas. The Yule log was reinterpreted as a symbol of Christ, the light of the world. The Wild Hunt was demonized, transformed into a warning against pagan superstition. And Odin, the wandering god who brought gifts in the night, was slowly, carefully replaced by a saint. The warrior bishop, Saint Nicholas of Myra, was born in the 3rd century in what is now Turkey. He was not a mythical figure. He was a real man, a bishop of the early church, and by all accounts, he was fierce. Nicholas lived during the reign of the Roman Emperor Diocletian, who unleashed the most brutal persecution Christians had yet faced. Churches were burned. Scriptures were confiscated. Clergy were imprisoned, tortured, and executed. Nicholas was among those arrested, spent years in a cell, enduring hardship for his faith, refusing to renounce his God. When Constantine finally ended the persecution, Nicholas emerged, scarred but unbroken. But his most famous moment came not in a dungeon, but in a council chamber. In the year 325, bishops from all over the Christian world came together at the Council of Nicaea to tackle a big theological issue. A priest named Arius had begun teaching that Jesus, though divine, was not co-eternal with God the Father. He was a creation, not a creator. To the Orthodox bishops, this was heresy, threatened the foundation of the faith. Nicholas was among those who defended the doctrine of the Trinity. According to legend, though not confirmed by all historical sources, his defense was not merely verbal. In the heat of the debate, when Arius spoke, Nicholas rose from his seat, crossed the chamber, and struck him across the face. The assembly was stunned. Violence was forbidden at the council. Nicholas was stripped of his bishop's vestments and briefly imprisoned. But that night, according to the legend, Christ and the Virgin Mary appeared to him in his cell and returned his robes, sign that his passion, though excessive, was righteous. Whether or not Nicholas truly struck Arius, the story endured because it captured something essential about the saint. He was not mild. He was not soft. He was a defender, a fighter, a man who would not tolerate threats to his faith. Yet he was also remembered for his charity. The most enduring legend of Nicholas tells of a poor man with 3 daughters who could not afford dowries for them. Without dowries, the daughters would be unable to marry and might be forced into prostitution. Nicholas, hearing of their plight, came to their home in the night and threw bags of gold through the window, providing each daughter with a future. This act of secret generosity became the foundation of his sainthood. He gave without seeking recognition. He saved without demanding gratitude. Over the centuries, Nicholas's cult spread across Europe. His feast day, December 6th, became a time for gift-giving, especially to children. In the Netherlands, he became Sinterklaas, a stern but benevolent figure who rode through the night on a white horse, rewarding good children and leaving switches for the wicked. Dutch settlers brought Sinterklaas to America, where his name was softened into Santa Claus, and his image was transformed. The warrior bishop, the man who struck a heretic and endured imprisonment, was gradually replaced by a figure of pure gentleness. The stern defender of orthodoxy became a jolly, rotund bringer of toys. His white horse became reindeer. His bishop's robes became a red suit. The transformation was complete. The saint had been made into a myth, and the myth into a marketing tool. And yet the original Nicholas endures in the Orthodox Church, in the icons that show him with a furrowed brow and a clenched fist, in the prayers that invoke him not as a giver of toys, but as a protector of the faithful. He is a reminder that the saints were not always safe. They were not always kind. They were human, and they were fierce. Christmas is not one story. It is a palimpsest, a manuscript written over and over, each layer still visible beneath the next. It is the laughter of Roman slaves who, for 1 week, were free. It is the light of Sol Invictus, reborn at the darkest hour. It is the evergreens of Yule, carried indoors as proof that life persists. It is the thunder of the wild hunt, riding through storms that terrified and awed. It is the quiet generosity of a bishop who gave in secret, and the righteous fury of a man who would not let his faith be corrupted. The Puritans were not wrong to see paganism in Christmas. They were simply too rigid to understand that Christianity had always been a faith of transformation. It did not destroy the old festivals, it claimed them, it baptized them, it made them bearers of a new story, while allowing the old stories to linger in the shadows. This is why Christmas feels ancient even when it is new. This is why its symbols resonate deeper than their commercial meanings. The tree, the lights, the gifts, the figure who comes in the night, these are not random inventions. They are echoes of forgotten gods, of band festivals, of human needs that have persisted across millennia. We light candles in the darkness because our ancestors lit fires against the cold. We give gifts because Romans once gave wax figurines to one another during Saturnalia, and because a bishop once threw gold through a window to save 3 daughters. We bring evergreens into our homes because the Norse once believed they held magic, and because we still need to believe that life endures. Christmas survives not because it is Christian or pagan, but because it is human. It is the need to gather in the longest night. It is the need to feast when the world is barren. It is the need to tell stories that remind us of light, of generosity, of the possibility of something beyond ourselves. The secret hidden in the glow of Christmas lights is this: the past is never past. The festivals we banned still haunt us. The gods we buried still whisper. And the traditions we think we understand are always deeper than we know. Thank you for watching Whispered Chronicles, Echoes of Forgotten Lore. Please subscribe so you don't miss our next story of forgotten lore. Till we meet again in the shadows of history, may you find light in the darkness and stories in the silence. As always, stay safe.